Blog Talk Radio.
What's going on, folks? It's your boy Long Beach Joe, and I am back at it again. I'm back at it again, man. Listen, we have quite a bit to discuss. Man, oh man, has there been a lot of things going on from all the fallout from the Super Bowl. Woody Johnson speaking at the NFL Honors. We got reports swirling right now coming out from Tony Pauline about Joe Douglas. We're going to be talking about that. And also some of the rest of the staff. Mike Tannenbaum came out today on ESPN, and he proposed a trade that I've got to let y'all hear. We're also going to be discussing Bryce Huff as well. There's a lot of Jets fans that just want to see him walk away for nothing, and I'm stunned by this revelation within the fan base. I've talked to a lot of Jets fans that are okay with Bryce Huff just hitting the road, not really caring about him whatsoever. We're going to be discussing that. Also, there's been moves made around the NFL, too. We're going to get to those. Guys getting released, stuff going on with Jimmy G and the Raiders that could affect the draft as well. We're going to be discussing it all. So I am hyped. Listen, I am the man of the people. I'm here for the people. Let me shamelessly promote my Facebook page. Everyone go on Facebook, search the Long Beach Joe Show. Like that page. My content's up there. Go ahead and give it a listen. Message me. I'll message you right back. I love going back and forth with you folks about this football team. Also, leave me some feedback. I love hearing about what you folks think I do here on the Long Beach Joe Show. I really, truly do. I appreciate all the feedback, People telling me, hey, Joe, we love the show. We love what you do. We like the takes. You go back and forth with a lot of people. I appreciate y'all. Even the people that I end up arguing with for like hours. All right? I appreciate you, too. I love having, solid discourse about this football team. That's what I like to do, okay? Your boy's also on iTunes as well. Going over to iTunes, type in at the Long Beach Joe Show on iTunes. Subscribe to the podcast on there, all right, and leave me some feedback. Give me a 5-star rating. Let me know what you folks think about what I do here on the Long Beach Joe Show. I appreciate all of you that do that as well, especially, the people that give me feedback, whether it be on social media and, again, on Twitter. It's at the Long Beach Joe, at the Long Beach Joe on Twitter. I get hit up a lot by the overseas guys. Listen, I want to thank everybody that listens to me, point blank, period. I appreciate every single last one of you, all right? But it's always crazy for me to hear from people overseas that listen to me. It's wild. That's wild to me because you're so far away from where I'm at. And to hear, that you found me and you like my content or, you enjoy my points or you like to just hear the discussion and you enjoy what I'm doing over here. Listen, I appreciate y'all, okay? Everybody that listens to me, but again, the people from overseas, it's always stunning to hear. So, yeah, again, Twitter, at the Long Beach Joe, at the Long Beach Joe on Twitter. We have a lot of fun. Go back and forth. My personal is at YoungJ000, all right? So we have a lot of fun on Twitter, so come on over, follow your boy, follow you right back. Let's go back and forth and have that discussion. And as well, for those of you that may not know, okay, because some people don't know. This is some people don't. Your boy is on YouTube, okay? We live stream on YouTube, okay? We live stream on YouTube. We put the show on YouTube, live show. We go back and forth. But just know that when you come over here and you come to the shows and you're watching the show and you're going back and forth in that chat, you're going to have to deal with some people, man. And I call my chat, okay, the people you got to deal with, I call them the savages. You want to know why? Because they're savage. Listen, man, they don't let up, man, okay? They'll let you have it. They don't care who you are, where you're from. They do not care, okay? Salute to all the savages out there. Put your questions, your comments in the chat. I like going back and forth with y'all in between calls, and we have a blast, okay? So be careful because nobody's safe. Trust me, nobody's safe, not even me, all right? They don't like what I got to say. They're going to let you know what time it is. Salutes again to Dakota. I see you in the building, Savage. Mathis, I see you in the building as well. Mr. Simon, salutes to Little Balloon as well. So salute to all the savages in the chat, man. I see y'all, all right? And we'll come to y'all. Put your questions in the chat. Put your comments in the chat. We'll be coming to y'all soon. And listen, we got a lot to discuss. So we're going to get to the callers. I see everybody, Rusty Steve, new callers as well. We'll be getting to you in just a second, but we got to cover something quickly, okay? So first off, we're going to start off with, as we all now know, the Super Bowl has come and gone. Chiefs ended up winning the Super Bowl. We'll be discussing that as well. I live on the West Coast, man, and there's a lot of, Niner fans around me. And I couldn't help, but laugh because they were so cocky and they were talking trash. And after this loss, it was a lot of silence, okay? And I just took time to laugh. You know what I mean? No. Man. Listen, Patrick Mahomes does it to you again in OT, all right? He did it to you again in OT. So I laughed at the Niners fans because they were talking really heavy, especially disrespecting me and my Jets, because I wear green around here. Everybody knows that, So a lot of my Niners friends like to laugh at me, so I decided to laugh at them. But, again, respect to them. They went to the Super Bowl, okay? And the Chiefs yet again collect another ring. That man, Patrick Mahomes, did what needed to be done in OT. But during the honors, Woody Johnson spoke to the media and had some things that he had to say. And it was wild. He took a shot at Zach Wilson. There was a reporter that was talking about things that the New York Jets need to do to improve roster-wise. And they kind of mentioned, hey, backup quarterback. And he added himself, we need a backup quarterback. We didn't have one last year. Now, this is not the first time he's come out and taken a shot at Zach Wilson. And I mean, that clearly is directed at Zach Wilson because Zach Wilson was the backup. But keep in mind, the plan to going into the season wasn't for Zach Wilson to be playing last year. That wasn't supposed to happen. It really was supposed to be Aaron Rodgers starting, playing the full season. They had Tim Boyle as well there as a backup, situation there. But Zach Wilson beat him out. And even when Tim Boyle was given a chance, he was trash. So here's the deal. Woody has said things about, not indirectly taking shots at Zach Wilson in the past. I remember when we were, going after Aaron Rodgers and trying to sort that whole thing out and trying to acquire him, the national media asked him what the New York Jets were missing. How could the New York Jets get to the next level? And he looked straight into the cameras and straight into these people's eyes and said the missing piece was quarterback. And Zach Wilson was on the roster, as we all know. That was after year 2. I understand that Woody Johnson, is frustrated, and all Jets fans are frustrated. But I think he could kind of tone these things down, especially if, again, we all know that they're going to try to explore trading Zach Wilson. I don't necessarily think it's going to happen. But even if you are trying to explore, don't do something or say something that could diminish his value, okay? We all know he's struggled. He's had some up and down points. Chiefs game, he was phenomenal in that game. But, again, throughout the season, flashes but not enough consistency. But as an owner, I just feel like he should fall back sometimes and kind of, pump the brakes on things that he says, especially, again, when it could affect this guy's trade value. Another thing that happens when you say things like that publicly in the media is that all the guys that are options to be a backup quarterback, right? Your Ryan Tannehills, your Gardner Minshew's, we can name him, Jacoby Brissett, name the backup quarterback you like. Those guys look at this situation and go, oh, you guys are pretty thirsty. You definitely want a backup quarterback, and we know that because they've talked a little bit about it. At least Joe Douglas and the staff has talked about, getting a veteran presence in here. When your owner says something like that publicly, a lot of those guys go, well, usually I would charge $9 million, to go to a squad, but I see you're really thirsty. You're going to be searching for a Super Bowl next year. How about I go $12 million? You know what I mean? So I understand Woody, and I get it. I get his frustrations, and I get he's just out there talking, and he's angry about the way this season ended. We all are, but pump his brakes. I just wish he would do that. Okay. He also went on to say some things about Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas. He made it very clear that he's put them on notice. He talked about the discussions that he had with them in the past couple of months. He's been as mad as it gets, and they've seen him. He talked about all the talent the New York Jets have, but they got to deploy the talent properly, and, that he was sending that message constantly to them. He also let it be known that, it's time to go and that the New York Jets must produce this year. They must. Even when asked about, hey, is there a playoff mandate? Are they on the line? Are their jobs on the line? Of course, we know that he's backed Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas, for this upcoming year, so they're good. But he went on to say, I'm not a playoff mandate kind of guy, but we have to do a lot better than 7 games, okay? So it is what it is there, man. That was so that the seat's getting hotter, and we all know that if the New York Jets, and I've talked about this in the past, I talked about this directly after the season, if the New York Jets do not barely miss the playoffs, I'm talking by a game. If they don't barely miss the playoffs or make the playoffs, right, there could be some heads rolling for sure, okay? We just talked about Zach Wilson and his value. ESPN went on to do an article as well and talk about how the possible trade value for Zach Wilson. ESPN hit up some personnel executives around the league, also hit up some coaches. And some of the coaches just said, hey, you can ask for maybe a day 3 pick. Maybe the New York Jets can get a 7th round pick if they're lucky. One of the assistant coaches, geez Louise, said I would give up a 2-week stay at the Best Western. Told the ESPN people, I'm not a fan. You know what I mean? So this is the kind of things that's being said and about Zach Wilson and his value that is in the toilet. So we're going to see what the New York Jets do going forward with him. Like I said, and I suspected that, I really believe that the Jets are going to get that veteran presence in here. And I think that there's a chance that we could end up keeping Zach Wilson. We could end up with that. If he signs an extension and lowers that cap, we'll see. That's just kind of my thoughts that could end up happening. I'm not saying I'm necessarily in favor of it. I just have a feeling that he's going to be here. It's a gut feeling. I don't know why, but I do think the New York Jets will go get a veteran presence, whether it be Ryan Tannehill or somebody like that. Now, that whole situation, right, Chiefs win the Super Bowl, now it leads us into a report that just got released by Tony Pauline. Okay, Tony Pauline, great writer, great guy that follows the Jets. He knows what's going on. He's broken a lot of stories. For those of you that do not remember, that whole stuff between, our general manager and Adam Gase, at the time, let me tell you something. He was on top of all of that stuff. He was on top of it. And for a while, he was telling people, Mike McCagnon's going to get fired. And everybody was like, this guy's an idiot. These guys are clowns. That's never going to happen, so on and so forth. Well, eventually, after free agency and after the draft, we saw Mike McCagnon get fired. And all the reports about all the dismay and the issues and all the things that was going on internally with the New York Jets, we saw it come to light that Tony Pauline and a lot of the reporting over there was correct. So he put out a report, and a lot of it was things that we've kind of already heard already, okay? One part of the report was that Douglas doesn't exert his power, and he's not the big dog in the organization that people expect him to be. Some of the sources have told Tony Pauline that Joe Douglas is too nice for his own good, and he doesn't lay down the hammer when he needs to. Often people say that he placates to Robert Saleh and his wants far too much, okay? Here's the deal, all right? Again, Tony Pauline, this guy's knowledgeable. But a lot of this stuff is tough for me to believe because when Joe Douglas got into the franchise, one of his first big moves, okay, one of the first ones, and we'll come to the lines in just a second. One of his first big moves was getting rid of Jamal Adams. Anybody remember that? Oh, man, Jamal Adams was a complete mess here. Whoa. Jeez Louise. Anybody remember that? Okay, I took a lot of flack for saying that the New York Jets could get rid of him, and I laid down the litany of reasons why I believe that the New York Jets should move on from him. And everything that I said about Jamal Adams, including the fact that he was just an overrated box safety, has come to fruition and was true. Who'd have thunk it, right? I mean, at the end of the day, what more do you want from me?
What more do you want from me?
I'm just trying to tell you the truth over here from my perspective, all right? So that was a huge move for Joe Douglas, right? Here's a fan favorite. Here's a guy that this fan base was absolutely in love with. Trust me, I know. I felt the wrath. If you said anything negative about Jamal Adams at any point, you could have said that Jamal Adams, that his lineup wasn't completely straight, and people would come out of the woodwork to destroy you and attack you, okay? Here he is sitting in a situation where he's got a guy that's looked at as, one of the staples of the franchise, and instead of, completely caving to Jamal Adams' demands, because at the time it was talked about $20 million per season is what he wanted. That's more than Darrelle Revis ever made with the New York Jets. Think about that. He didn't do any of that. He stood pat, stood as a solid general manager, and when the move needed to be made, he did so. 2 first-round picks and some change. Also got some players out of the trade as well that helped the New York Jets move forward. And he also drafted some solid players too. That was a huge move by Joe Douglas. So if Joe Douglas was just some soft marshmallow guy that was just going to get ran over, wouldn't that have gone a different way? That's just my thoughts. I want to hear from the Savages in the chat. Again, we'll come to the lines in just a second. Just the everyone painting this situation like Joe Douglas is just some kind of cotton ball that just people just can push around and do whatever. I just don't see that. I don't see it. He's made other moves as well, and he's really won a lot of big trades for us. Look, I think he traded a 4th-round pick to move all the way up in the 1st round to get ATV. What a masterful move. He's done so many different things here that have been great. Look at the capital he got for Blake Cashman. And Blake Cashman at the time, that guy was often injured. We couldn't get him on the field for a full season. And he got some capital from him as well. He also traded tight ends as well, got capital for them. Like, he's done so many great things here. And he has his faults. I'm not here saying that, Joe Douglas is, without faults or whatever, and he's perfect. But I just don't think he's the guy that people are trying to paint him to be necessarily, right? And even talking about placating to Robert Saleh, I mean, that is the coach that he selected, right? So you do want to give your coach the tools to be successful. And when they talked about placating to Robert Saleh, one of the things they talked about in the article Tony Pauline wrote was the Will McDonald pick. And now, he should have moved up for a tackle. I think a lot of people are forgetting how that draft actually played out. Darnell Wright going, to the Bears was not in anyone's plans. No one thought that Darnell Wright was going anywhere near that high in the 1st round, okay? Everybody talked about Darnell Wright still being, there at 20, if not later, okay? Everybody talked about that. Every analyst, I had analysts on, and they talked about how Darnell Wright was a solid tackle. He's a guy that can be a 1st-rounder, but he's not going to go high. And once that happened, it blew things up. It absolutely blew things up. We knew Paris Johnson and other tackles were off the board. The Bears snatched up Wright, and then you have the Patriots sitting in front of us. They traded out for the Steelers, took Broderick Jones. Broderick Jones was clearly the guy that the New York Jets was targeting, but Will McDonald was the pick that they took. And I didn't think that Will McDonald was a bad pick. I didn't, especially if, again, Aaron Rodgers stays healthy the full season. The New York Jets are playing with the lead. That's when you deploy Will McDonald in your pass rush to close out games, especially when you were talking about playing in a division, or we're playing in a division with Josh Allen, but you're playing in a conference in the AFC with a bunch of great quarterbacks, right, including Patrick Mahomes, the guy you're trying to chase for a Super Bowl. If you don't have multiple pass rushers, you're going to get scorched in this league. So I don't necessarily down Joe Douglas for the Will McDonald pick. I know a lot of people hate it, but that pick could come into play, especially when we talk about what we have this upcoming season, or what could possibly happen, this upcoming offseason with Bryce Huff. The article went on as well to talk about Keith Carter, who we all know we all know he's not necessarily beloved by the players, right? I had to flush him. The article talked about how he's not very well liked by the players. A lot of people feel like he's not a very good offensive line coach. The entire fan base wants Keith Carter fired. We know that. I know that. I run a radio show that you folks are listening to right now. We've even seen, when Kai Becton and Breece Hall even come out and respond to comments from former Titans players that were, on the roster when Keith Carter was there. There was a former Titan offensive lineman that talked about how, he loved Vrabel, because Vrabel actually just was fired by the Titans recently. And he loved Vrabel, pretty much loved everyone on the staff except for Keith Carter. Becton chimed in, with some laughs and, basically said, hey, yeah, I'm just paraphrasing. I'm not the biggest fan. And Bryce Hall also, made some laughing. He threw in some emojis on social media, so it seems like he's not the biggest fan of Keith Carter as well. So that's nothing new. Also went on to talk about Rex Hogan in the article as well. As we know, Rex Hogan recently parted ways with the New York Jets. And they talked about his involvement. He was one of the main voices pushing for Zach Wilson to be drafted. He thought that Zach Wilson was a more accurate passer than Trevor Lawrence. Oh, my goodness. And also, allegedly, according to the article, allegedly, he was thought to be the source of the leaks that were happening from within the Jets building last season. So this article, again, just came out. Tony Pauline, there's a lot of things, it's open season on the New York Jets pretty much. Some of it, Keith Carter, I believe that stuff. And again, it's going to be interesting. Some of it I don't necessarily believe. I don't think that Joe Douglas is a powder puff. I really don't. But it's going to be very interesting because even when we talk about Rex Hogan, parting ways, that was Joe Douglas's right-hand man. Clearly he has a big voice in that drafting room, right? And in the process of analysis for the drafts. So I start to wonder, this upcoming draft, Joe Douglas's right-hand man is gone. Who's going to play in that form? Who's going to fill that void of Rex Hogan? Who's going to be the guy that's going to be in Joe Douglas's ear saying, hey, this is the guy that we should draft, and here's why? Because let me tell you something. This upcoming draft is pivotal for the New York Jets. It is pivotal. If you don't find a way to shore up this offensive line in a Super Bowl or bust year, and Jets fans are expecting a Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers coming back healthy, if you don't find a way to shore up all these issues so that when it comes time to face these top teams that we're going to be facing in the NFL, I'm telling you, it's going to cost you. Because, again, if the New York Jets miss the playoffs or don't – if they completely miss the playoffs and there's another 7-win season, they're going to get fired. And when they get fired, we're more than likely going to have to blow this whole thing up because there's a lot of guys that are not going to come back here. So it's going to be interesting to see how the New York Jets handle the situation going forward without Rex Hogan. All right? Now, I want to let you folks hear about Mike Tannenbaum. He had a very interesting trade proposal for the New York Jets, okay, on ESPN. And I'm going to let you folks hear this. Here's Mike Tannenbaum on Get Up this morning.
All right, Mikey, I'm all in on this next one because Cowboy fans, listen up. Mike, are you including that? Give me trade number 2. Brian, this is win-win. Brandon Cooks going from Dallas to the New York Jets and TJ Mosley going from the Jets to the Cowboys. This really works well for both teams. Look, the Jets need outside speed outside of Garrett Wilson with Aaron Rodgers right back. They have depth in their front 7. The Cowboys desperately need size and speed at middle linebacker. Love it. I think Leighton Van Der Esch, a leader in the locker room. And absolutely, all those things. This is really going to help both teams. Why would the Jets do that? That is the leader. That's their captain. That's Captain Kurt right there. Well, Brandon Cooks, I'll give you that for CeeDee Lamb. But I'm not Brandon Cooks going to be – how are you going to store up to the Jets? Brandon Cooks is going to be available anyway. You know how many free agent receivers are out there for me to go ahead and get? You think I'm going to give up my leader for somebody that's there? Nah, man. This dude is. He's been on 20 teams for a reason. Brandon, look. He's a good player, but it's not a touchdown. I'm not giving up my captain when I can go get Ridley. I can go get, Gabe Davis. Garrett Wilson is number 1. Or I'm trying to trade for. I'll give the Raiders TJ Mosley for Devontae Adams, but I'm not doing that for it. I need a higher end guy than Brandon Cooks.
Now, as y'all heard, okay, I'm not making this up. I didn't make it up. Okay. That was Mike Tannenbaum on the Get Up on ESPN. As we know, he's on there now. And he proposed that the New York Jets should trade C.J. Mosley for Brandon Cooks, okay? I respect Mike Tannenbaum. I have no clue what he's talking about when he's talking about this take. I got to flush it. Not only do I have to flush it, but this is real bad. I need him to slow down, okay? I need you to slow down, man. Listen, why in the world would you trade C.J. Mosley, who was an All-Pro and a Pro Bowler in 2022, for Brendan Cook? That makes no sense. It makes no sense for the Jets either, right? It makes no sense because there's all kind of free agent wide receivers that you can go after that can give you similar production and impact that Cooks is going to have. But guess what? If you get rid of C.J. Mosley, if you're the New York Jets, there's no one behind him. We don't have another inside linebacker that can do what C.J. Mosley does. Anybody know that? There's nobody after C.J. Mosley that's going to come in and give us the type of leadership and production that he's been able to give us. I think that's a terrible idea, and we're going to be talking about that as well. It's crazy. We're going to move along because that take from Tannenbaum was wild. And then we go on and we talk about Bryce Huff. Again, we'll get to the callers in just a second. Bryce Huff, there's been a lot of talk, man, a lot of talk about him. And a lot of fans are really completely open to him walking away basically for nothing. There's a lot of people saying, hey, they shouldn't even franchise him, right? Brian Costello, New York Jets beat writer, recently sat down and was speaking about him. He basically said, poo-pooed the idea of the New York Jets franchising Bryce Huff and just said, hey, we can just allow him to walk away, and it is what it is. He said the New York Jets shouldn't try to franchise Huff, and that really franchising and trading a guy only happens. You only get value back for guys that are like future Hall of Famers, right? Future Hall of Fame guys are pretty much the only guys you get value back for when you're trying to franchise them and trade them. And I think that's completely wrong, okay? First off, I've made my stance known. I believe that Bryce Huff should absolutely be re-signed by the New York Jets, and I'm going to talk about that in a second, okay? But putting that aside, when you're talking about only franchise or only Hall of Fame guys, get value back when you're traded after being franchise tag, I don't believe that that's true. The Commanders just did this with Montez Sweat. Montez Sweat was with the Commanders along with Young as well. They moved on from Chase Young. And they moved on from Montez Sweat. They said, hey, we're not going to, be able to bring this guy back or re-sign him. Let's get some value back. So you know what they did? They traded him to the Bears, and that netted them a second-round pick. That's what it did. The Bears gave him a second-round pick. They gave the Bears Montez Sweat, and guess what the Bears did? The Bears saw, what Montez was bringing into the building, and they said, hey, we'll give him a 4-year, $98 million deal, $17 million guaranteed. Now, Sweat's a good player. He's not a Hall of Famer, but he's a good player, right? So look what the Commanders were able to do. Take that capital and continue to build their team. We also seen this in the past as well, right? That's more recent. But we've seen this with Yannick Ngakoue when he was with the Jags. The Jags franchised him. They knew they weren't going to be able to keep him, and they traded him to the Vikings and got a second-rounder and a fifth-rounder back. So this stuff happens before. There's other players. I could talk about just Davion Clowney. I could talk about various other players that have been franchised or have been traded away for solid picks when a team knew, hey, we're not going to be able to move forward with this guy, whether it be contract demands or he's not in our plans, and they were able to get capital back and move forward. The idea of not getting anything back for Bryce Huff, to me, is completely ludicrous. If you're not going to sign him and keep him a New York Jet, you must franchise him and then trade him, especially when we're talking about pass rushers in a passing league. Great pass rushers, I'm talking great pass rushers, generally they don't hit the market, and we all know why. Because great pass rushers, or solid pass rushers even in this league, are very tough to find. So talks about this when everybody was saying, hey, we need to get rid of Carl Lawson. What do you tell you guys in the offseason? Pass rushers don't grow on trees. We're going to keep him around. Fall back. All right? So if you're not going to sign him to a deal, then guess what? Franchise him, get some value back. But again, I believe you can sign him to a deal. I know that there's a lot of talk out there, $20 million. I think you'll probably have to give Bryce Huff somewhere between $17 to $20 million to keep him a Jet, which is doable. But I think that if you're talking about winning a Super Bowl, if you're talking about moving forward, if you're talking about getting better in this league and, taking the next step and becoming the team that everybody wants us to become, when you face teams like, the Ravens with Lamar Jackson, or you're facing Burrow, or you're facing Watson, or you're facing, Josh Allen, or you're facing Herbert, or Trevor Lawrence, or even this guy, C.J. Stroud, who has really, really shown that he's going to be the real deal. He's going to continue to get better, and he was really good, right? When you face those guys, you're going to have somebody be able to push the pocket. You're going to have somebody be able to push the pocket. Not only somebody, you're going to have multiple people be able to push the pocket. All right? When you look at a lot of these top defenses around this league, they don't just have one guy. They got multiple guys that get after it, multiple pass rushers. And some of those guys I just named, I didn't even mention Patrick Mahomes. Anybody remember him? Look at all the teams that have faced him. Listen, the Buffalo Bills realized we want to win a Super Bowl, right? We got Josh Allen. We got all the tools. We need more, because if we don't get some more, we're never going to get past the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. And you know what they did? They already had Rousseau. They already had Ed Oliver. They already had various other guys. They said, we're going to go get Von Miller. And that's exactly what they did. And they paid him a lot of money to come in. That was for Patrick Mahomes. All right? And this guy's still around. Clearly he's still running the league, just won a Super Bowl, took over an OT. If you don't have bodies to get after this guy, he'll dispatch you and treat you like the rest of everybody else. We need to keep Bryce Huff, man. Pass rush in this league is important, and especially with the New York Jets going through complete droughts, right? Well, we didn't have a pass rusher for years. Anybody remember? After John Abraham, there were years we didn't have anybody. You could come here and throw for 350 yards against the Jets. You had enough time to make lunch, go watch a movie, take the car to get washed off, come back. Then you had time again to make a couple phone calls, and you still would have time to throw the ball against the Jets because we could not get to the passer. Don't give up your top sack leader, man. 10.5 sacks led the New York Jets to the season. Don't do that. Don't do that. Bring him back. Re-sign this guy. Make him a Jet for the rest of his career. And rush the passer and move forward in a Super Bowl year. That's what I say. Because if you let Bryce Huff go, only guy after him that's proven to this point is Jermaine Johnson, right? Pro Bowler, was solid, 7.5 sacks last season. He was solid. He's got to clean up the penalties, but he was good. I like Will McDonald a lot. He had three sacks this season. He was used sparingly. He was deactivated for some games. Can you trust that Will McDonald and Jermaine Johnson alone, right, are going to be able to give you the type of production combined that you're going to have, or you're going to lose when Bryce Huff leaves? I don't know. Jermaine Johnson, I think, would be solid, but Will McDonald, that's asking him a lot in his second year to take that big of a leap. That's a big leap. But when you have a three-headed monster defensively and you're able to get after people, I like that idea for the New York Jets. Hyro salutes to you, Savage, in the chat. He says he's rather expensive to invest. Yeah, listen, pass rushers are expensive in this league. I don't know if y'all know that. Pass rushers are expensive. Guys that you bring into your building, homegrown guys like him, yes, when they pan out to turn out to be really good players like he is, he's grading out as one of the top pass rushers, yes, they're expensive. And guess what? You have the capital to be able to pay for that. You have the capital to be able to pay for that. So get it done. Get it done. Because if you don't, man, oh man, get ripped up next year and not be able to get to the quarterback. Because I truly believe that if Bryce Huff leaves next year, he could be a 15, 16, 17 sack kind of guy. He is. He has it. We've seen it. We've seen growth every single year get better and better and better. Better and better and better. And don't tell me that you can depend on somebody after just Jermaine Johnson and Will McDonald. We'll see what Will McDonald has next year. But honestly, after Jermaine Johnson, there's a lot of question marks. Don't talk to me about John Franklin Myers. We tried to lean on him for pass rush before. Wasn't consistent. Wasn't very good. After that, it's straight question marks. Bring back Bryce Huff, man. Bring back Bryce Huff. We're going to get to the lines. 515-602-9639. 515-602-9639 is the number. Call in. I am taking all callers. Again, when you call in, please make sure that your phone lines are good to go, okay? Don't call me from a phone that you found in Home Depot parking lot. Oh! I need to be able to hear you, all right? Make sure your background's clear of noise. And, again, for those of you that are new that are calling in, all right, there's no cursing on my show. That's like the only rule. Don't call into my show cursing. I'll get you out of here fast. I'm talking fast. Faster than we got Mike McCagnon out of here. That wasn't fast enough, but it was fast. It wasn't fast enough. He still got a free agency and a draft. How the hell did that happen? How does that happen? How did that happen? Can somebody please tell me how that happened? How did he get a free agency and a draft? A free agency and a draft, and then we fired him. Good. Oh, the Jets were a mess, man. Jeez Louise. Again, 515-602-9639. Please give the stream a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell so when I post content, you'll be in the know. If you want to give to the platform, Super Chat is at the top up there, at the top of the chat. Cash App is on the screen. Anything you give to the platform is greatly appreciated. So we're going to get to these lines again. 515-602-9639 is the number to call in. First caller I'm going to go to is my guy, Rusty. We're going to Rusty first. Steve, will come to you next. New callers as well. Hold on. We'll get to everybody. For those of you that do not know, okay, Rusty, he's a savage.
What's up, fellow savages?
Rusty, what is going on, man? We got so many things moving and shaking here. A lot of discussion to be had. I want to start off with this, man. All right? I want to start off with this. We got a new report coming out, and there's a lot of things, being said in this report. Again, it's by Tony Pauline. He's saying that, Joe Douglas is too nice for his own good, talked about Keith Carter and the organization. What are your thoughts about this report? I mean, at this point, we've had so many things come out about the Jets. How are you feeling about this, and how detrimental do you think this will be to the New York Jets going forward?
I think it's nonsense. He's not. Shoot, he wanted to fight one of those fans. Remember that? He's not.
That's allegedly. That's alleged. That's alleged. That was a rumor. That's alleged. I want to put that out there. That's alleged.
He's not soft like a fig. He's not soft like a fig Newton. You know what I mean? He's the best GM we've had in such a long time. It's not even close. And like you said, too, in the beginning, he got the freaking so-called self-appointed president out of there. And as far as Tannenbaum, whatever, and what he was talking about, he might as well be Pookie with what he's smoking, apparently. It doesn't, it doesn't line up, Like, it makes no sense. Like, the things that JD did, he succeeded more than he failed, And I mean, what if Mackay didn't get freaking hurt? He would have been a beast. And then they flip flop him on both sides. And I'm not like a Mackay sympathizer, but hey, man, you got to give credit to where the man is giving credit due. Like, he was looking good, then all of a sudden he gets dinged up in the season. They keep on messing with his head, saying you're going to right tackle, you're going to left tackle, and you treat him like the freaking Cookie Monster. You tell him to lose all the weight, which he did. But, how much is he? He was like 370 pounds. You know how hard that is to come back tearing your knee to pieces twice, And then it's funny, too. Like, I know everybody loves AVT, but they don't give him any flack for being injured all the time as well.
Yeah.
But it's just like and then we never have any of our linemen that we draft for a specific position to actually play that position. They're always flip-flopping them instead of putting other guys in to let them solidify their role and just, keep it fluid throughout. They're like, oh, okay, we got a new guy, so we're going to put you over here and then put this guy over there. It's like, what are you doing? No other teams in the NFL do that with all of their offensive linemen. And then people are going to want, and now they're talking about wanting McGovern back. Are you crazy? McGovern is people forget how much of a train wreck that guy is, I guess, obviously. It's like for real? Oh, my God. I've been hearing people saying that. It's nuts.
Listen, I want to have this discussion because I've been going back and forth, and I've talked to Jets fans that have talked about wanting to have George Fant come back and play some swing tackle for us. What are your thoughts about that? Look, I'm not in favor of it. I'm not a Fant guy, but there's so many Jets fans that I've talked to just recently in the past couple of days that have been talking about George Fant and the possibility of him coming back and playing with the Jets. I'm kind of stunned by it. What are your thoughts on that, man?
They're smoking too much of the greens, that good old devil's lettuce, because that short-term memory is just, hitting them like crazy. It's the same thing with the Jamal guys. Like, really? Mm-hmm. What?
Yeah.
Why are you going back? It's one step forward, two steps back. It's ridiculous. Yeah, it's a special breed of stupid, in my opinion,
Yeah.
And you get offended by that, oh, well.
Listen, I
don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, listen, I respect everybody, and I respect all Jets fans. I've said this before. But George, I could possibly see if you were talking about depth signings, right? Just keeping him as a guy that can come in and play some depth. But I don't think that's what he's looking for. I know that he's had a solid year with the Texans. But I wouldn't be interested in bringing him back here. My first plan for the New York Jets offensive line is to go younger and possibly to grab some guys that could be in this free agency. And I've been talking about this guy constantly, Mike Owinu from the Patriots. There's a chance that he's going to hit the free agency market, and I believe that the New York target him. That's one of my top guys. For you, is there a free agent lineman out there that you're looking to grab and bring into this New York Jets facility if the Jets can sign him?
Well, I would like to grab Winu because just ripping the heart out of Boston would be just glorious, oh, man, can't stand those masses of holes, But that would be great to, get them back a little bit. And then also the dude from Dallas. Dallas always has a pretty solid line, too. But Tyron Smith. Tyron Smith is who you're talking about. Yeah, he's had some injuries as well. I know he's dealt with some injuries. I know he's definitely going to be one of the top linemen that's going to be in this upcoming class of free agents. But I know he's dealt with some injuries. He's kind of 50-50. But, man, there's so many guys out there. I'm just wondering a good amount.
How much the New York Jets are willing to spend. Because to this point, I just don't think that the New York Jets are going to be able to shore up all of their issues along their offensive line in free agency. I don't think it's going to be able to happen. And I think a lot of that is going to play. Yeah, I hope it's not Bakhtiari either because he has a massive injury history I want to stay away from, too.
Oh, yeah.
And especially with Jets fans always banging on Mekhi Becton. How can you bang on Mekhi Becton and then be okay with Bakhtiari coming into the building? It's like, what did you say? I think he played 13 games combined in the last 3 years or something like that. I think it was the stat is. I can't even remember. But he hasn't played much, and he's had a lot of issues.
He's got Father Time not on his side.
Yep. It's just, to me, I think the Jets should stay away from that. But that leads me to a question for you, Rusty. Rex Hogan out the door, right? That was Joe Douglas's right-hand man. We were just talking a little bit about the draft and what could come. How concerned are you about this draft with that type of voice, that type of influence that Joe Douglas, that kind of guy that Joe Douglas would lean upon? You could clearly tell that Rex Hogan had a voice and had influence in that draft room. With that being gone, how concerned are you about this upcoming draft? Are you concerned that Joe Douglas isn't going to surround himself with the right people to give him those solid evaluations so that he can move forward and really make the decisions that he needs to make?
Well, with Rex, I guess I'm on that other side to where I'm sort of, I don't know, I'm not sad to see him go, honestly. I just hope that, Joe follows his gut and does his thing, because when he was in Philly, he was killing it. You know what I mean? Look what he did in Philly. And I just, I just hope he kicks Woody out of the war room. He's the problem.
Mm-hmm.
He really is the problem. And if he does that and he slams and locks the door and barricades it, I hope we trade back from 10. I'm a Jordan Morgan dude. And
okay, talk to me, because I was going to ask you about that. Talk to me. My final question for you.
Yeah.
I mean, you're looking at the draft right now. Can you foresee the run of tackles happening and us possibly missing on a guy that you would want? You're saying you want the Jets to trade down. What's the furthest down you want to see the Jets trade to, man?
21-ish. Like that.
Wow. Okay.
Because I think there's going to be 7 offensive tackles just going in the first round alone.
Okay.
You know, I like Fuaga. I'm not getting. You know, I watch college football just like you do, and I'm watching what Jordan Morgan did. He was a maniac, and he's unbelievable. He really was. And if you trade back and you're able to, like, possibly say we somehow trade back to 13, then trade back to, like, a 17 or a 20, now we're going to be getting dudes in the second, third. We can stack those, and then we can get Jordan Morgan. Then we can get, like Beebe. We can get Van Pran. We can, you know, we have options. And then we can, you know, you can get a big fatty defensive tackle and, like, McKinley or something. And you can work from there. And I just pray to God we do not get, what's his name, Rattler. Oh, he is so bad. He's like the second coming of Ryan Leaf with the attitude and everything. But, yeah, that's what I hope we do. I hope we honestly trade back and JD grows his huevos and just hold him and kicks, you know, Woody out of the room and saying, no. This is, my thing is on the fence.
Yeah, I don't know about trading back into the 20s, especially if there are certain guys there. I tell you what, if Olu is there, if Tylisi is there, I'm going to take him. I think he's solid. I think he'll come in here and be very, very good for us. But I love Olu.
You think Olu will make it past 8? I
do.
Really?
I do. I know that there's a lot of people talking about. I mean, Joe Alt, depends on where he goes. I think Joe Alt and Latham are probably the first two off. I could see Olu being there for us at 10. I could see, especially again with what's going on with the Raiders, Jimmy G, them trading up. That could change a lot of things here with this upcoming, you know, draft. You know, them making a move and trying to grab a quarterback because again, Jimmy G, for those of you that do not know, just got popped for PEDs today, and that actually I think voids like some of the things that they're going to have to pay him so they can break away with him scot-free. No money off of the books for them at all having to deal with him. And now, boom, they're going into the draft. They have the capital. It's been talked about them moving up from 13 up into 1. You know, Chicago's sitting up there and trying to, you know, grab one of these quarterbacks that's in this upcoming draft. So there's a lot of discussion to be had. We'll be having that. But before I let you go, Rusty, really quickly, because I got to get to these other callers in these lines. Bryce Huff, man, what are your thoughts? What are your outlooks on him? Do you think that he's a must resign with the Jets, or are you just ready to move on? Do you feel like he's going to be too expensive and we should invest the money elsewhere? How would you handle the situation with Bryce Huff if you're the Jets general manager?
We better keep him or franchise him or something, you know, and, you know, say another team wants to give us picks, you know, then because what's the other option? Watt, and he's asking for like 22.5. So it's like, what do we do? Do we take picks for Huff and then sign Watt? Because we're going to need a three-headed monster, like you said. Like, we're in the AFC, you know, like, we got serious running quarterbacks. We have to play against the refs. Like, we need that type of three-headed monster. We really do. So, in that sense, if I really wanted to sign Huff, but if, you know, they franchise him and then another team takes him and gives us draft picks, then I pray that we get, like, Watt, because other than that, we're screwed. You know what I mean? Like I love McDonald. I think it's going to be a solid pick, you know. I really do. I think he's going to turn out awesome. And, of course, JJ, which I was pleasantly so because of the whole Florida situation that we always had to deal with. But, I mean,
listen, I'm telling you.
Those are the top two dudes that can go after quarterbacks, really, or what, Huff and Watt. Watt's getting 22.5 and coming off of an injury.
I'm telling you. So, I keep telling Jets fans, I'm telling you, Huff is going to get paid. And if it ain't by us, it's definitely going to be by somebody else. Because when you look at how he's grading out across the metrics and the stats, he's grading out as one of the top pass rushers in the league, one of the top ones, easily. Oh, yeah. He led the New York Jets in sacks. I'm telling you, you add him to some of these other defenses around the league, I think he gets bumped up from 10.5 to possibly 15, 16, maybe 17 sacks in a season. I'm telling you.
Especially if we're playing with a lead. Imagine we play with a lead.
Yes.
Imagine that happens.
That's when you really get to pin your ears back. You know, he goes to the right spot, and they're up 20, 24, and again, he pins his ears back, and it's going to destroy people. Listen, Rusty, I got to slide off because I can talk to you all night. I got to let you go because we got to get to the other line. Next time I have a show, I want to hear from you. All right, Rusty?
You got it, Joe. Salutes to you, fam, and salutes to the fellow Savages. Let's go, Jets.
That's what I'm talking about. Again, 515-602-9639 is the number. 515-602-9639 is the number. Call in. We are taking our callers. We're going to continue to hit these lines. Again, when you call in, be patient. I get to everybody. I can see you, okay? I can physically see you. Call in. Be patient. We get to everybody. Trust. Salutes to Hawkeye Digger. I see you in the building. He says, use Huff money to get the wide receiver. We drafted McDonald, so let's turn him loose. Okay. That's his thought process. I'm not big on that. I want to bring Bryce Huff back. All right. Captain K, salutes to you as well. I see you in the building. He says, talking of overweight, we must not bring Jamal back. Listen, there's a talk that Jamal Adams could be a free agent. The Seattle Seahawks, again, this is rumored that they're going to release him coming soon. Those rumors have been swirling for a while. We will see. But listen, I'm not interested in him being brought back as well. Todd, I see you in the building. Salutes. Bree, I see you as well. Okay. He says the only reason Zach got as long as he did was I think he was talking about Aaron Rodgers. No amount of placating can make up to sell up for stick with him with Zach at that length of time. Yeah, I mean, we'll see, man. We will see what happens going forward. Again, the Raiders have been notified that Jimmy G actually was suspended for 2 games because he just popped for PEDs. And this situation, again, could void the $11.25 million in base salary guarantees from the Raiders that he's owed. So the Raiders could walk away scot-free here and go get themselves a quarterback in this upcoming draft. Very interesting. And it says that Jimmy G is not contesting the suspension at all. As well, right, the Bears have released Cody Whitehair and Eddie Jackson. That saves them $32 million on the cap. So it's going to be very interesting going forward. That's just some news around the league. And again, the Kansas City Chiefs have won yet another Super Bowl. Wow. Next, we're going to Chris, man. Chris, we're coming directly to you. Steve, you'll be after that. New callers will come to you next. Hold on. All right. Hold on a second. For those of you that do not know, this man, Chris, he's a savage.
What's up, Joe? What's going on, man? Happy Friday to all the savages.
Salutes, Chris. It's always good to hear from you, man. We're sitting down. We're talking Jets right now. I'm having a blast. Listen, man. Bryce Huff, I want him re-signed. I want him brought back 17, 18, 19 million. I don't care. I want him to be here. I need a pass rusher. If we're going to chase Patrick Mahomes, I want to do it the right way. What are your thoughts on that, Chris?
Right. I think it's a must. I think if you see the kind of defense Salah wants to run, he's got to have pass rushers. So I think he'll be back. I just think you have to do the cap gymnastic thing, put some money back into 2025, 26. And, you know, my thing was, you know, obviously because we're all in this Rodgers things for 2 years, my thing was to trade up the draft and get some really good players in there. Trade up, use that pick to either get a late second round, or even trade up and get Marvin Harrison or Malik Neighbors. I'm not too enthused as getting a rookie on an offensive line because I do think that we all praise these rookies that come in the league, but it takes a while to adjust. Like I'm a big fan of the Pittsburgh right tackle we have. I'm a big fan of his. I think he's going to be a good, decent, servable offensive line. He was New York State Lineman of the Year. It's going to take a certain time to adjust to the NFL game. And
you're talking about Carter Warren.
Carter Warren. And people say, oh, I think that guy's going to be a starter, man. That guy, he reminds me of the guy who we're shouting about the Patriots. Carter Warren reminds me of that guy, and he's played. He just need another year, and that's what we got to do. If we're all in, this is my thing. If we're all in, or if we're not, we have to decide. Like, you know what I'm saying? And that's the Huff signing and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And
here's the thing, and I want to hear it, and I think that I hear your take, and I want to have this discussion with you. When you're talking about trading up in the draft, how are you doing that? Explain to me the scenario where you're trading up in the draft, and where would you be looking?
You would have to obviously you would have to use next year the 2025 first round pick, and you would have to use the 21st your 10th pick, and maybe even the second or third round, and go up and get the guy you want. So
you're willing to give away a first-round pick. Hold on a second. Let me make it clear. You want to give up the first-round pick from 2025 and maybe a third-round pick as well to move up in this year's draft to grab who? Who is your target?
Either Joe Alt or Marvis and Harrison Jr. It solves the problem. We've been drafting linemen for years, Joe. If we get a solid left tackle that's worth 10 drafts. And that's going to start for the year. So I'm saying that when we went for it in the Rex Ryan era, we traded all the way up to get Mark Sanchez, right? That's what we did. We were all in, and for better or worse, some people don't like it. We almost got there, right? But I'm just saying the Jet fans keep talking about trading down and all this and building. And listen, you got Sauce Gardner, you got all these guys on rookie. You got four top number one picks. I mean, the stars. I mean, at a certain point, you got to be like, you know what? We don't need the 2025 the guys in the 2025 draft. We got Aaron Rodgers for 2 years. Let's go all in. Let's get these guys. The Saints did the same thing. So we got to decide whether we're all in or not. And I'm going. If the offensive, the problem. If we haven't been able to find a left tackle, or we need a bona fide starter for a bona fide guy for Garrett Wilson to make this thing work, I'm going to get Marvis and Harrison. I'm going to put him next to Garrett Wilson, and I'm going to go for it.
Yeah, listen here, and I wanted you to get your take out because I wanted to hear you out. Here's the deal. I understand the all-in mentality, but you also have to take into account the future, right? You're talking about getting rid of a first-rounder next year. I don't think the New York Jets should do that. I don't think we have to move up and grab Joe Alt because he's not the only guy that could come in and be a solid starter for you. I think Olu can come in and start at left tackle for you if need be. Right, then you also look at the other needs of this football team, right? And again, he's not the only one. There's other tackles as well. I think Tyrese Fuaga is a guy that can come in here and start for you. You never know who could fall down in that board, but again, we talk about Olu and Tyrese being the more realistic answer there. And I think either one of those guys can come in and start for your team and be solid. But you also have to look around the situation as well. You look at various other positions that are of need on this football team. You talked about a wide receiver spot. We don't have a second-round pick in this upcoming draft. I could see Joe Douglas taking capital from future drafts to move up and get a second-round pick because of the need to put another wide receiver out there. Again, Alan Lazard has not panned to this point. It doesn't look like he really cares about playing football here. He stinks, right? So until he does something, right, we're definitely looking at grabbing a wide receiver some year. But I don't think we have to make such big, drastic moves. I just talked about C.J. Mosley just a second ago. There's no guy behind him. I would not be shocked at some point during this draft if the New York Jets don't look to take a linebacker at some point to try to help develop behind C.J. Mosley as well. But when you look at a lot of the issues going back to the offensive line, there's multiple issues. And we'll see what the New York Jets do in free agency. But if the New York Jets go into the draft with the needs as vast as the needs are along the offensive line, you won't have enough capital to just move up and trade and make those kind of drastic trades, especially giving up a first-round pick to go up and move up a guy. You may have to take a guy in the third round, a guard or a tackle in the third round to come in and help him play off the bat. You might have to do that, especially if we're talking about getting rid of Laken Tomlinson, which opens up another hole across the offensive line, right? And we all know that. As of right now, we're looking at left tackle and right tackle being a hole. We'll see what happens. But definitely if you move on from Lake and Tomlinson, that's a hole. Also as well, a lot of people aren't talking about AVT. AVT hasn't been healthy in 2 years, and I love him. But unless you get somebody to sit behind him as well as a just in case, you may, find yourself with your pants down this year as well and your keister in the breeze when maybe he gets another injury that sits him down for, a fair amount of time during the season, if not puts him on IR like we saw this year yet again, right? Because 2 of these last years he's missed significant time. So I think making those kind of moves, big moves like that, giving up first-round picks just to move up and grab one guy, I don't think the New York Jets have the capital to do that. And I get the flash from Marvin Harrison. Listen, Marvin Harrison I think is going to be a great wide receiver in this league. But he will not matter unless you address your offensive line properly. Because Garrett Wilson doesn't matter. Garrett Wilson's great. Garrett Wilson is great. Listen, Garrett Wilson is phenomenal. Over 1,000 yards this year. Garrett Wilson should have over 1,600 yards easily. He's wide open like every game. But he don't matter because our quarterbacks are running for their lives, and they're trying to stay alive while he's running wide open.
Okay, I'm saying it looks.
Go ahead.
I'm saying that this is what I said. Okay,
I
know for this whole offensive line thing could have been solved with 1 or 2 moves, right? And we know this is Joe Douglas's fault, right? Because I know for a fact that it's Joe Douglas's fault, right? Because Donovan Smith was on Long Island waiting for Joe Douglas to call him, right? Didn't take any offers, had meetings with the Jets, and they told him no, right? And the guy ended up playing for the Super Bowl. Donovan Smith is a top left tackle, and he will come to the Jets
he's not.
at a discount. Listen. Wait. He is a good offensive lineman. He is a good offensive lineman.
No, he's not. Donovan, let me tell you something. Hold on. Donovan Smith, let me tell you, Donovan Smith is not who you a lot of Jets fans are. And I know he talked about wanting to play for the Jets, and he loves the Jets. He grew up a Jets fan, so on and so forth. Congratulations on the Super Bowl. Donovan Smith holds every single down. And if he can get away with that with the Chiefs, they'll allow you to hold and do all that stuff you were doing. That's all fine and dandy over there in KC. Come on over to NY and see what happens to you when you hold as much as he holds.
Why do you think?
Because that's what he does. He literally holds all game, and we all know that.
Why do you think these guys? But Joe, this is my point. Why do you think these guys? Why do you think these guys from the offensive line? Like you're the one of the ones that keep saying like Broderick Jones. Broderick Jones got his book last year, and he had to go to the bench. What I'm saying is, wow, doesn't mean he won't be a good offensive lineman, but it takes a while. Still got to play against it, and experience counts in with offensive linemen. So I said, this is what I said. I said that one. I think a lot of the offensive line problems was due to Zach Wilson's fault. And Woody was right. It was a lot of Zach's fault, man. You know what I'm saying? Zach is not a good – Zach, the problem with Zach, and it's a lot of these offensive linemen, Zach, when he was in BYU, he did not go against the top talent in the end. So you couldn't evaluate him quickly. Everybody's talking about Fuaga. We don't know how he's going to play against Myles Garrett and all these other guys. We don't know. So the best thing to do is to go get a veteran, right, to protect Aaron Rodgers back, right? Maybe say, look at Makai. Maybe bring in a specialist or offensive assistant, or maybe we're getting rid of Keith Carter altogether and bringing an offensive line. Line thing. And Carter Warren is not a bad. Listen, I'm just telling you. This is what I'm saying. If the Jets offensive line would be better if AVT is better. The senator we signed, I forget his name, didn't get hurt. And
are you talking about Pittman or Connor McGovern?
Connor McGovern. And either if we say goodbye to Mekhi Becton, we bring in somebody like Trent Brown, and then we actually sign Donovan Smith for right tackle. I'm saying that's a better offensive line than we have this year. I'm saying that's enough time.
Here's the problem. Here's the problem with what you're saying.
Listen, that's enough time.
Here's the issue. Hold on a second. Here's the issue. I understand wanting to address the offensive line with free agency. The problem is I don't think the New York Jets have enough to do that. because you're strictly talking about the offensive line right now, right? Tackles get paid in free agency. We're talking about the top guys that's going to be out there. They're going to get paid. Nobody outside of maybe me or you is even possibly interested in Mekhi Becton at all coming back here. Everybody wants him up out of here and couldn't wait to get him gone, right? Mind you, there's a gigantic hole at right tackle too. Don't tell me that Max Mitchell is the starter. And you also want to get rid of Laken Tomlinson. We've had this discussion. You want him gone too. Gigantic hole at left guard. So how are you going to pay all of those positions in free agency? You can't do it. This is why I'm talking about the importance of the draft and not trade. Hold on a second, Chris. Hold on a second. I'll give you the final word. Hold on a second. This is why I'm talking about the draft and the importance of capital in the draft I'm not necessarily saying thrown away, but being traded, because we need those picks. We have to have those many picks to fix these issues. And yes, the offensive line was a mess, and you can blame Zach Wilson, but then how do you explain what happened to Tim Boyle? How do you explain what was happening to Trevor Siemian? How do you explain what happened to Trevor Siemian? All of those guys are getting blasted. This offensive line was horrific last year. I don't give a damn who the quarterback was. And you can try to blame Zach Wilson. Did you watch Aaron Rodgers get his Achilles ruptured live on TV? Did you watch the snaps before that happened? Aaron Rodgers himself was running for his life. He was running for his life. So, look, and I'm not here being a pacifist for Zach Wilson. That's not what I'm doing, okay, because everybody knows Zach Wilson was trash. I was the first one getting up there saying he was trash. I was the first one doing that. Okay, I was a Sam Darnold guy. I told you when he sucked. Okay, and I love USC.
I know.
Fight on.
I know.
Okay, so let's keep it real. Here's the deal: we've got to become more realistic about how we're going to attack it. Could we end up with a one solid veteran, to come in and I could see that. But getting rid of all of our issues along the offensive line, literally through free agency, I don't think that's going to happen. Also, we're forgetting about the fact that the New York Jets also need to sign a backup quarterback, right? That's about $9 or $10 million there. Jordan Whitehead, I think he needs to be brought back, because after him, who's the safety you putting back there? That's going to cost you, right? Also, does anybody forget that Greg Zuerlein and Morstead are also free agents? There is no way we can let those guys walk out the door. Our special teams has looked better this year than it has in years. Our kicking game, Greg Zuerlein literally won us games. How many years have we been without a kicker? And we finally get one. We need to pay those guys too. There's guys that are here that we need to pay, and everybody's just like, just go grab it. It's not happening. It's not happening. But I'll give you the final word, Chris, before I let you go. It's been a phenomenal call. Give me your thoughts.
But this is what I'm saying, Joe. I understand what you're saying, and you're right. But you can do cap gymnastics by pushing money back into certain years and by placing and do more avoidable years and guaranteeing money down the line for certain players. You can create another $50 million in cap space and get it's just a longer, you have to push it down on the credit card. But here's what I'm saying. This is what I'm in my call. This is what I'm in my call, because I know you got other callers waiting. We have to just, because it's going to take. I didn't see a rookie offensive lineman starting in the Super Bowl. We made that deal for Aaron Rodgers. We said that we were in a Super Bowl mind state, and teams like got veteran quarterbacks like the Rams and stuff. They traded picks, and they weren't cap held and they were garbage for the last 2 years, but they got that Super Bowl. We have to decide whether we're in or out, and that's how I'll leave my life. I love you, man.
All right, thank you. Listen, Chris, thank you for calling. Next time I have a show, I want to hear from you. Listen, Chris calls in. I'll let him talk. I want to hear your takes. I'll go back and forth with you, even if I disagree with it. Chris said he's going to swipe that credit card. He's going to swipe that credit card. For those of you that do not know, credit card debt is extremely high. Actually, the highest it's been in America since before 2008. We're not going to get into inflation and financial talk. That's not what we do here at the New York Jets. That's not what we do here on the Long Beach Joe Show. Okay? Y'all know what inflation is doing. 515-602-9639. 515-602-9639. Your boy Long Beach Joe, we are sitting down and we are talking Jets, okay? We're talking that talk. Salute to all the savages in the chat. Rusty Spooner, I see you in the building. All right? Joe the Jet G, excuse me. Salute and respect to you as well. Joe the Jet says, I just want to make the playoffs. As do I. As do I, man. I want it too. I want to see the New York Jets in the playoffs. I want to see the New York Jets win a Super Bowl. My God. Can we make that happen? I got to get back to these lines, okay? 515-602-9639. 515-602-9639 is the number. Call in. We're taking our callers in. When you call in, be patient. We're going to get to everybody. 984, I see you. We'll be coming to you next. But first, we got to go to Steve, okay? We're going to get to Steve. Steve is a savage, and I want to hear from him. I know he's got some takes. For those of you that do not know Steve, he's a savage. Steve salutes. I'm going back and forth with a lot of people, man. I'm arguing with people. A lot of talk about Bryce Huff tonight, man. What are your thoughts about the situation with Bryce Huff? And do you think the New York Jets should end up, trying to re-sign him, or are you interested in possibly franchise and trade, or do you think the Jets should just allow him to walk away? What are your thoughts, man?
Well, first of all, good evening, Joe, and thank you again for having me on your show. I know it's been for a very, very long time because now that it is officially the off season. But, on Sunday night, last Sunday, after when the Super Bowl officially ended, the 2023 New York Jets season was officially over. With this announcement tonight on your show, the 2024 New York Jets season officially begins. And obviously, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. We've got some players we got to try to re-sign. We got to look at free agents. We got to look at the draft situations with this football team. So, obviously, we'll get to the Bryce Huff situation first. The thing is, I want Bryce Huff to give us I want that contract extension for Bryce Huff because, Bryce Huff, as you know, the last couple of years, he's been literally one of our best pass rushers on the team. Him
Absolutely.
And Jermaine Johnson have worked well together the last 2 years as probably our two best pass rushers. And the thing is, Bryce Huff is the one player that on that team right now that deserves a contract extension. I know Joe Douglas and Bryce Huff's agent have been trying to work together on getting a contract extension together. Obviously, things haven't really worked out right now, but hopefully before free agency begins in March, though, it's either, it's either we give him the contract extension, but Bryce Huff needs to be here. He needs to be here.
Yeah. No, he absolutely does, and I'm hoping that the New York Jets get a deal done because I think the franchise tag would net him, $23 million. I don't know if they'll carry that into the season. I feel like if they franchise tag him, the likelihood of him being traded is probably high.
Yeah.
But I think the New York Jets will be able to get some capital back. But I'm thinking that to sign him, I'm thinking 17, 18, 19 million, somewhere in there is where you're going to have to, give that. Is what you're going to have to give to him to keep him a New York Jet. I mean, Steve, what are your thoughts, man? What is the most you'd be willing, if you were the Jets general manager, to give Bryce Huff per season to keep him a New York Jet?
No, and Joe, I was agreeing with you, too, around the same number as you were saying. That was what I would do with the Bryce Huff situation. It's around that number. But the thing is, Joe, we got to try to get him back in this offseason because, listen, if he doesn't come back, then what needs to happen is therefore, Will McDonald is going to have to come up, and he's going to have to make a major step forward if we don't sign Bryce Huff. But, Joe, now that with
that's a fact,
Bryce
Steve.
Huff, Joe, there's other things I now want to talk to you about, like with what you talked about earlier. Joe,
Go ahead.
I've seen some of your other previous videos before, and let me tell you, Joe, I've watched the video of when you talked about the whole thing with Jamal Adams maybe about 3, 4, 5 times. And, Joe, that's one of the best videos that you've ever done on your channel. Let me tell you something, Joe. I absolutely agree with you about the whole situation with Jamal Adams. We should not bring him back to the New York Jets because after the drama, the pain that he suffered through with what he made Jet fans go throughout that whole dilemma, and when we ended up getting 2 first-round picks back for him, let me tell you, ever since the day we traded Jamal Adams, he has not been the same player as he was ever since we traded him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, listen, first off, Steve, I want to thank you for checking out my content. And just to speak on what you were saying, this is what I don't understand about Jets fans, okay? I talked about Jamal Adams and getting rid of him ad nauseum, and I knew that I was going to be attacked. If you go back and listen to any of the audio or you watch my videos, the first thing I literally said years ago when I started about Jamal Adams getting up out of here, the first thing I said was, I know what's coming for me. I know that I will be attacked and be called an idiot, but I'm telling y'all that this is what's going to happen, whether you like it or not. And here's why. And I broke that down. Now, the thing is that, like you said as well, for me, the talent, I told people he's an overrated box safety. And when he got to Seattle and they said, hey, we want you to play safety, okay, not undersized outside linebacker, safety, he couldn't do it. He can't cover a bed with a bed sheet. He was getting cooked. I forgot it was a Patriots wide receiver. I can't remember his name right now, but he was in his older years, and he roasted Jamal Adams when the Patriots went up there and played him. They coined him the moniker, was it Blitz Boy? He can only do anything if he blitzes, if that. So all of the things that I said about him as a player were clearly shown to be true, because Seattle at this point is looking to get rid of him because the production's not there. He can't play safety, can't cover, right?
Yeah.
But when you talk about him, when you talk about the standpoint of his character, just the way that, again, like you said as well, and I talked about the way he handled getting out of here was crazy. The whole situation, the whole thing about him going off about Joe Douglas taking calls for him and all that other stuff, that was all set up by him. He was the one that caused that issue. He was the one that told Cowboys players, he called them and told them to tell Jerry Jones that he wanted to be a Dallas Cowboy and to call the New York Jets to see if they could grab him. He told them to do that. And then when they did that, and that's how he knew Joe Douglas picked up the phone, because he had, insiders inside there, he then came here, lied to Jets fans, he lied to the fan base, he lied to the media, he lied to the front office, he lied to everybody, and basically acted like he had no clue of it was happening, and he was upset by it. Because, the Rams would never call about Aaron Donald, or the Rams would never take a call about Aaron Donald. The Patriots would never take a call about Tom Brady. You don't want that type of guy in your locker room, because one of the things outside of just the talent outside of the talent just being added to the New York Jets, the Jets have gone through a culture change of attitude. Attitude has changed around the New York Jets. So I don't want to have nothing to do with it. And I don't get why Jets fans want him back.
So now, Joe, thank you for saying about the whole thing with the Jamal Adams situation, because that was the next thing. Obviously, that was one thing I wanted to talk to you about. Now, the next thing I wanted to talk to you about, you spoke about this earlier on the show. I want to talk about our owner, okay? I want to talk about, when on the night of last week when he spoke at the Honors Awards. Joe, let me tell you something. I understand that Woody Johnson is very, very, very frustrated now, as of right now, with the situation with this team. I understand that he wants to win now, but let me tell you something, Joe. The thing that still blows my mind about how there is still no playoff mandate. So, Woody, here's a question I have for you, and this is something I like. You may laugh about this, Joe, but this is something that really, really got me going nuts. So, Woody, let me ask you a question. You're angry now? So you're angry now. How come you haven't been angry for the past 13 you-know-what years as Jet fans are for not making the playoffs? How could you not be angry about that? How could you not be angry about the fact fans are the ones that are suffering? How could you not be angry about the fact that players who come here that want to win are not making the playoffs? How could you not do that? How come, Woody? What's going on with that? I mean, listen. And then the other thing is he talks about, we need a backup quarterback. Why couldn't you get that situation fixed during the regular season right after Aaron Rodgers got hurt? I mean, listen. Yes, I understand that this was the year, and Joe, you spoke about this earlier about this whole thing about that this past year was the year that it was the year for Zach Wilson the sixth. But the thing that Woody actually, for once, came out with some fury in his body. And, he's usually a very, very nice guy. But he comes out with fury. The thing is, what goes me nuts is that how come it's been 13 years now? How come you haven't been mad for 13 years that we haven't made the playoffs like us fans have?
Well, Steve, and this is a great question, and I'm going to be completely honest with you. My thoughts about this is because most of the issues with the New York Jets have been the Johnsons' fault. When you look at one of the biggest changes that Joe Douglas made, and I tell Jets fans this all the time, it seems like a small change, but it's not. Changing the reporting structure was monumental for the New York Jets, because at one point here we had the general manager and the coach reporting to the owner. That was the structure, and look what it got us. Right? We had a general manager in Mike McCagnon and a head coach in Adam Gase that had two completely different focuses.
Crazy
two completely
ideas.
Different focuses. Right? You had Mike McCagnon, who was literally just trying to save himself his last season. That's why he went and got Le'Veon Bell. That's why. And again, Le'Veon, phenomenal player, right? Phenomenal. And he was also a Jets fan growing up. Salute and respect to Le'Veon Bell. But Le'Veon Bell had no place on this football team because Adam Gase was not going to utilize him and didn't want him.
Yeah,
that's why
Joe.
Exactly.
If you remember that,
he gave him all that money, right? Gave him all that money to come here and basically just sit on the bench. Just sit on the bench. Well, why was all of this happening? It was because the Johnsons jacked up the coaching search with the guy from Temple that actually went to the Panthers because they tried to hire his defensive coordinator for him, and he said, screw off. I'm not having that happen to me. Peace out. And he went and signed with the Panthers, right? There was a struggle there. They had no clue of what they were doing with Mike McCagnon either. That's why he got a free agency and a draft, which shows you that there's a lack of focus within the organization and a lack of organization within the organization. And look where it got us, scrambling for years with nothing. Wasted time, wasted draft capital. We literally wasted capital drafting Sam Darnold. It was a waste because we never made sure that he was going to actually be able to succeed here with the New York Jets. It was a complete waste. Wasted money, Tremaine Johnson getting deals here. Look at how much of a strain that put on our cap. Look at all the issues that came from a lack of organizational integrity. Look at it. And when you look at those issues, you can look directly at the Johnsons. They were the biggest problem. That's why they're just getting mad. And they're not even mad because they really don't know what they're doing. But it's clear as day. So all this other time, it's been them. These are the same guys that said that Adam Gase was a beautiful offensive mind. Anybody remember that? After a horrific year? So that's why, Steve. It's been the Johnsons. I'll give you the final word, man.
Okay, but now, Joe. So then here was the other thing that was also the last thing I'll just say about this with Woody Johnson really quickly. The last question that he was asked about was, and this has been something that Jets fans have been begging for MetLife Stadium to have, even though MetLife Stadium is one of the worst stadiums in the NFL to play in. He was asked about, have you guys ever made the decision about, changing the field, from the MetLife turf to maybe possibly a grass field? So Woody Johnson did say that, yes, they were inconsiderate of making a change about that maybe to the field, because Woody has been realizing that the last few years is that not only has he seen players on the Jets get injured, but if anybody does remember, in the last couple of years, we've seen opposing teams that have come to MetLife Stadium that have been affected by the MetLife. For example, when Chicago came to play the Jets a couple of years ago, it happened with the safety Eddie Jackson. Last year on Black Friday against the Dolphins, it happened to their pass rusher, Jalen Phillips. Dolphin fans were crying and complaining to the Jet owners about not changing the field after the game because of the fact that they lost one of their best pass rushers in the offseason. But even though the Dolphins this past year were one of the most overrated teams in football, we could talk about that, Joe, another time. But the thing is that the thing is, Joe, but here's the thing. Woody has been saying that he wants to change it. It does sound like he wants to. But not only does he have to consider it to change it too, it has to be up to the Giants owner as well. Because unfortunately, We share a stadium with our New York crosstown rivals, the New York Giants. And the other thing, though, that Woody says that he's a little bit concerned about, if let's say if they change it to the grass field, is because, not only does MetLife Stadium host football games, they do the same thing with concerts and events and all that stuff. So that's the only thing that, Woody is saying. But Woody has been saying that it is a consideration. But, Joe, they need to change it to a grass field ASAP. I am sick and tired of looking at that disgusting MetLife turf. So, Joe, your thoughts?
There's a lot of things. There's a lot of things that they need to change at MetLife. It's literally it's a horrible stadium to go to. And this is as a Jets fan that goes there often and watches live games. Everybody knows I travel when I can. That stadium is horrific. It's a glorified toaster. From just the way that the way that fans are treated inside the stadium is insane. It's insanity. The price of everything that's in there, how we're shuffled in there, the traffic trying to get in and out of MetLife is atrocious. It's absolutely atrocious. All of it. The field is garbage. It's all garbage. It's all garbage. All of it.
Hey, Joe.
And if Woody wanted to make a chance, that change would be made. Hey,
Joe. But now, obviously, Joe, there was also another announcement that did happen, and this is something that Jet fans are going to be excited about going into 2024. Right after when the Super Bowl ended, and I don't know if you saw this on the Jets app, but the New York Jets have announced that in 2024 we're getting a brand new uniform.
Yeah, we heard about that. Yeah, I mean that's great.
Joe, what's the matter?
Chiefs fans celebrate Super Bowl. We celebrate a uniform change. That's great. I like the unis. I think they're great. But Woody better put some people in those uniforms that are going to do something so that those uniforms are seen in the playoffs. Because if not, Jets fans are going to lose it. Listen, Steve, I got to let you go. I got to slide off. Next time I have a show, I want to hear from you, all right?
Hey, Joe, thank you so much for having me on your show, man. Have a good night.
Have a good one.
Hey, bye-bye.
Listen, man, let me tell you something. You get all the new uniforms you like, and I do like the new unis. I think they look nice. But you better make the playoffs. You know what I'm saying? You better make the playoffs, though. All right? You better make the playoffs or come real close. Have another 7 or 6 win season, and you'll see where those uniforms go. On social media. Jets fans ain't shy. They're not shy. All right? Why the Johnsons just get mad? Because they've been the problem. That's why they weren't mad before. What you going to be mad at, yourself? I keep telling people, changing that reporting structure was the beginning. Bringing in Joe Douglas, right? A respected name around the league. Bringing in a coach that people respect around. That was the beginning of the change, okay? If you don't have structural organization in anything you're trying to run, it's going to fail. When you have 2 different parties on 2 completely different polar opposites on what you should be doing, you can't come together and complete the task because you got a backstabbing head coach and you got a general manager trying to save his own life, save his own keister. You're going to fail. That's exactly what we saw, nothing but failure. And the Johnsons had their hands all in that. 515-602-9639. 515-602-9639 is the number. Call in. I'm taking all callers. I got to get back to these lines. Salutes to all of the savages in the chat. I will come to you, okay? Put your thoughts, your comments, and your questions in the chat. I do come to the chat, trust. But I'm one man, okay? I'm one man. Bree says Jamal said things about Woody that were both true and the reason why he's never coming back. He also said MetLife is one of the worst stadiums in the NFL, period. That's a fact. Okay? Next, we're going to go to North Carolina. Okay, we're going to North Carolina. Val, I see you. We'll come to Val in a second, but we got to get to North Carolina, all right? We got to take his call, okay? For those of you that do not know, this man from North Carolina is a savage. Salutes, my friends. It's been a little bit. It's good to talk to you yet again about this New York Jets football team. I appreciate you calling into the show. I want to talk to you, man, about this report that comes out from Tony Pauline saying, that I don't know if you got me playing in your background. There's kind of an echo, so you might want to shut that down in the background and mute it. No problem.
Yeah, there you go.
It's all good.
I didn't realize I was looking at you on the street. I thought I cut that volume down. All
good. You got Tony Pauline coming out saying that Joe Douglas is too nice for his own good, doesn't exert his power over the organization, and they're talking about Keith Carter as well being a very disliked coach. Rex Hogan, him being let go. He was one of the guys that was a big voice for Zach Wilson, and there was also talk that allegedly he was the guy that was the mole, the guy that was leaking stuff from the organization. What are your thoughts about this report from Tony Pauline, man?
I think it pertaining to Joe Douglas, the way he was able to get Jamal Adams out of town and got the drastic compensation that he got, I don't get the impression that he's a softy by any measure. Not Joe Douglas. Joe Douglas is very firm and he sticks to his guns, and I have the utmost respect for him. Now, Keith Carter, one of our staff members on the coaching staff, the offensive staff, I don't like. Some of the things I'm hearing are not very good.
Yeah.
Not very good at all. It's not a good sign. And that might be the root of what's wrong with the offensive line. It might not be that the offensive linemen we have are particularly that bad. It might be the coaching. Because if the coach doesn't make the proper corrections, it might look as though, they're just not very good. Because I know prior to his injuries, Mekhi Becton was a highly recruited prospect, and I know he really struggled at the tail end of last season, and I'm hoping that we can turn it around. I mean, this is it. This is make or break season, and I know that everybody's been talking about the draft and what we're going to do with pick number 10. I kind of had some ideas I want to throw around. And,
hold on a second before we get there, because I want to hear. Okay, I want to hear your thoughts on the draft a little bit. I want to go to free agency first. Okay, there's a lot of people. I've gone back and forth tonight with quite a bit of people. And I've talked about the New York Jets and free agency and not being able to shore up all the issues in free agency, especially across the offensive line. What are your thoughts about, us going to free agency as far as, is there an offensive lineman that you want to see the Jets target, right? Is there a guy that you're looking at that you're saying, hey, this is a guy that I think can help us in this spot to really kind of propel and get some momentum forward, and maybe we can draft the rest of, the needs across the offensive line?
It's tough to say. I know Bakhtiari's name had been bantered about. I think we need a veteran. If we can get a veteran, someone who can hold it down instead of going with a rookie on that blind side, I feel a lot more at ease, a lot more comfortable, and then that would free us up. But, at one time, even though Mekhi went down, we had George Fant to the left, or that wing tackle, and then we had Morgan Moses. You remember that? If we had some equivalency to that today, even though I love Vera Tucker and his versatility, he's a tremendous player. But if we had, other linemen like a Fant and a Morgan Moses to offer, some more depth, I think that would really free us up, and then we wouldn't be talking about using prime assets on a tackle. Maybe we could take a look at a wide receiver or even another position,
Yeah. So when you're looking at this situation again, because I think the New York Jets are going to have to end up taking an offensive lineman in the first round. That's my personal belief, right? Whether it be left tackle or right tackle, depending on how this plays out. Now, you were talking a little bit about the draft there. I mean, at this point, what is your stance? Do you believe that do you believe just like me that the Jets will take an offensive lineman, mainly a tackle? And if so, who's the guy that you're looking for the Jets to take in the first? Or what is your plan? Let me know.
Watch this. I would go on and try to make a move. Either Bakhtiari, a combination of Bakhtiari and maybe one or possibly at least one, if not two other offensive linemen that can swing out to the tackle spot. Because, Vera Tucker's kind of questionable, recovering from his injuries. But if we can land a Bakhtiari, maybe get one or two other offensive linemen, watch this. I'm taking Powers Johnson with pick 10.
Okay.
Powers Johnson is a monster. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but you will as we approach the draft. Imagine a center, 330-something pounds, 6'3", that can bench press 500 pounds. He's a monster. He comes off on people, and he puts them down. Now, you've heard of Creed Humphrey?
Yeah, absolutely.
He's like Creed Humphrey that came out. Remember when he came out? I want the Jets to take him, and they took Elijah Moore. That's who Powers Johnson is. But I think
here's
he
my
might
thing.
be even better than him. Yeah.
Yeah, here's my thing, and my thought process is, and I hear your plan. One, I'm not a big fan of Bakhtiari. He's often injured. I think he's played like 13 games in the last 3 seasons, I think it is. So I think even bringing him into the fold, especially with all of the flack that I've heard about, Mekhi Becton and all these things, I don't think you can trust that Bakhtiari is going to be healthy at all for a full season, right? So that kind of makes me a little squeamish there. But then you're talking about Johnson. Yeah. I think that's the center from Georgia, right? I'm making sure that the center from Georgia, isn't he? Or
I think it is.
Yeah,
that's
I think
right.
It's the center from Georgia. So here's the deal:
Oregon. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're right. I remember he's like center from Georgia or Oregon or whatever. But we already have that guy in Tippmann. I think Tippmann would be a really solid starting center for us. I don't think we necessarily need Johnson into the building. I think especially if we're sitting.
But the idea I had is.
Go ahead.
The idea I had, the reason I threw that name out there, no one is talking about him, but he might be one of the safest picks in the draft next to Joe Alt. Now, you've heard of Joe Alt, how good he is.
We already have a center, though. So basically grabbing him would solve what? Unless you're getting rid of Laken Tomlinson and you feel like maybe Johnson can play left guard, then you still have a gigantic hole at right tackle. Where's your answer at right tackle? Because honestly, if you're bringing in Bakhtiari to be a starter, you still have a hole at wherever you're going to put him. Because he's not going to stay healthy a full season. He hasn't been healthy.
But you know what I'm thinking too?
Go ahead.
That I would have Tippmann replace Laken Tomlinson. Tippmann has shown the versatility, and that's a good sign for us that he's able to do it at a fairly good level, even though he was projected to be a center. And I'm not saying Joe Tippmann is chopped liver either, in terms of those top-rated center prospects. I really like Joe Tippmann. But the idea is to allow to slide over to guard, replace Tomlinson, and I think he would be a significant upgrade. And then draft Powers Johnson. That's a safe pick. He's a monster. He's dominant. And I think our offensive line would be significantly better. It would even be recognizable. Then we could get back to running the ball with Bryce Hall, and we would actually be able to put people down with Tippmann, Powers Johnson, and hopefully a healthy Vera Tucker. We would have 3 studs that could come off the ball, all with the ability to get to the next level and dominate and put people down, let Bryce Hall get it going, and that way protect Aaron Rodgers by eliminating or reducing the number of hits and the number of contact that those opposing defensive linemen would have on Aaron, in terms of, rushing him and that kind of thing,
But I think you would still have major issues at your tackle spots. And that's where you're going to get the pressure at the edge.
Yeah.
So you're going to get him smoked. I understand that your interior, I think, would be solid, right? I would love to keep Tippmann at center because I saw some things this season where I think he's special. I think he can be very – and I don't want to – there's a player, as we all know, that we love, okay? Last name starts with an M, okay? And I don't want to say that he's him. I don't want to say that he's that guy. It's a man. I'm not going to finish the rest of the name, but it starts with man. I'm not going to say the rest of it. But what I am saying is that I saw some very special things, and that player that I'm talking about also said that he feels like Tippmann could be special as well. So I don't want to go too far.
Oh,
okay?
Yeah.
But I think leaving Tippmann at center I think would be big. But, again, I think the vulnerability for the New York Jets is tackle. You have to show up your tackle spots. If you don't, Aaron Rodgers is going to get what he got this year, and we're going to be in a really bad position. So I hear your plan, but
you know what though?
That could get fleshed
I
out.
really believe
Go
they're
ahead.
going to get to work and they're going to try to add some veteran presence at the tackle spot. Now, obviously, we're not going to be able to land a top tier tackle. I mean, if we can get something equivalent to what we used to have with Fant, who was decent, and Morgan, if we can come anywhere near Fant and a Morgan Moses caliber tackles, if we could just get some decent tackles, veterans, experience that maybe Aaron can feel comfortable with, and free ourselves up with pick 10, I think we'll be in a lot better position, have more flexibility going into to the draft, you know what I mean,
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be tough. I keep telling people I feel like the New York Jets are going to have to take an offensive lineman. I understand trying to free it up, and I want to see it, but even with our cap situation, especially with, and this is my final question for you, I want to ask you about Bryce Huff. Bryce Huff. There's a lot of Jets fans that are willing to let him go, willing to allow him to walk in free agency. Some Jets fans are not interested in trying to re-sign him. They feel like trying to bring him back is going to be too much cap room to give up, too much capital to give up to bring him back. What are your thoughts about Bryce Huff? And if you're the general manager, what would be your plan for him?
Sign him. They're wrong. Bryce Huff is one of the great stories we've had in a long time. Obviously we had Wayne Corbett back in the day as a walk-on, Damon Snacks Harris under Rex Ryan, and we have another one in Bryce Huff. This time at their premium position. I think he's, 25, 26 years old? And he's one of the top-tier, top-rated edge rushers in the NFL. How long have we been, the last time we had a good pass rusher? Since John Abraham. Repeat after me. Since John Abraham, right? So,
John Abraham,
I don't understand the idea, about people wanting to get rid of it. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. You keep him. Because what we have in our three-headed monster, our rotation, is very unique and very special. And I want to hold on to that. We got Jermaine Johnson, who's ascending. We got Will McDonald, who I think is an absolute stud. I actually believe that he's better than Bryce Huff. But he just hasn't had the chance to get out there and show what he's capable of. Will McDonald is a freak. Don't get it twisted. Have you seen Will McDonald? Will McDonald is a freak. They show him out there jumping over cars with ease. He's a freak. He's freaky. We haven't had anybody like that in a long time. Since John Abraham, that explosive ability, that bend is very unique. He's very special. And you keep him and Bryce Huff, I mean, we can just all day long terrorize quarterbacks with our three-headed monster. I want to keep that together. Now, I get it. There's a salary cap. We are limited in our resources. But Bryce Huff, man, I mean, he's such a wonderful story. We got him as an undrafted. How many times do you find players who perform on a high level as an undrafted? I mean, we had Snacks Harris, and I've heard about other teams, the Cowboys with Tony Romo, which is amazing. To find someone of that caliber undrafted, it's very, very unique, And why is it so easy to give it up? And if we do sign him, will it cripple us? And do you know much about the salary cap and how it will impact us going forward if we are able to sign him?
Yeah, I mean, the New York Jets, I think from what I've heard so far, and again, a lot of things can change, that the Jets can make some moves and have up to like 30, maybe 40 billion. But I'm thinking everything I've heard is 30 million is kind of like the sweet spot, right? That is more likely. You're going to pay him like 17, 18, maybe $19 million a year. That just is what it is. You and I both know pass rushers, that's what they get paid. Like, I keep telling people for years, Dante Fowler used to get paid every year in free agency, and he was like the last guy. He was just around. But because he had that,
he was.
That
I remember him.
Tag, he wasn't
Dante
that great.
Fowler. That was my boy coming out of college. I love Dante Fowler.
Yeah, but he was getting the bag every year. He would be hanging around in free agency, and somebody would scoop him up for $13, $14 million every single year, and he would give him decent numbers, but nothing crazy, And that's this guy's an upper echelon pass rusher in this league, bro. He's going to get paid.
Yeah.
So the Jets are gonna have to pay him for sure, and I think they can get it done. Yeah. Right. And I think I think they're going to get it done, but they're trying to load the cash up. But even after him, there's other free agents as well that we got. When I talk about Zerline, Morstead, we need a backup quarterback. Jordan Whitehead needs to be brought back.
That's true.
Yeah. There's some stuff we got to do. So. We got to make it happen. But listen,
Yep.
I got to slide off. I got other callers. Next time I have a show, I want to hear from you, all right? If you can, I know you're busy. I know you're doing your thing. You be working. Salute. Call a little bit earlier because I really want to delve in, especially as, again, we having shows. I really like going back and forth with you and having these discussions about the Jets, all right?
Oh, yeah, we'll definitely talk again. I appreciate you for taking my call, and you take care now.
Absolutely. You have yourself a good one as well. We're going to keep getting to these lines again. We're getting low on time, and you know what time it is now. We got Val on the line, okay? Listen, for those of you that do not know, this is when the shenanigans begin, okay? The shenanigans are here, all right? 609 will come to you in a second. But Val's on the line. For those of you that do not know, Val, oh, Lord, he's a savage. Val, salutes. We already know what you're bringing to the table. This place is about to turn into a complete. It's gonna go into shambles. Okay, folks. Salutes, Val. I'm sitting here talking with a lot of different people. We're talking about Bryce Huff and what it's going to take to bring him back. What are your thoughts? Let's start here. What are your thoughts about Bryce Huff, his situation, and do you think the New York Jets should go after him or let him go? The general manager, what is your game plan for him, man?
Well, thank you for introducing me. You know, the shenanigans has begun, warning sign. And shout out to everybody in the Savages, and thank you for having me. But I will say, man, we definitely need to get Bryce Huff back. But like I said, for my prediction, I just don't think it's going to happen, I think we probably will even franchise tag him and try to trade him or something like that, which is highly unlikely as well too. But I definitely think we're gonna probably let him go and stuff, which really sucks because he's really been balling. We should have definitely re-signed him when his value was low at the time and stuff. But I really feel like we should try to get him back as much as possible. Even C.J. Mosley even said we need to get him back.
Yeah. No, yeah. Look, I know the franchise tag, I think it's $20 million or $23 million. I think it would take the franchise tag him. I think at this point, that's what's being reported. I cannot see you letting Bryce Huff go for nothing. If that happens, that to me, that would be devastating.
That's a loss.
Especially if the defense doesn't perform as well and you miss the playoffs, that's for sure going to get you fired, bro. That's for sure going to get you fired. You're going to be at McDonald's, bro, for real. You going to be up out of here, okay? For real. You're going to be up out of here. They're going to fire you for sure if that happens. So I want to see him bring back Huff. If they can't, then you better franchise him and sign him or you're going to have some issues going forward. Now, as we continue to talk about this, and again, we're short on time, Val, this Jets offensive line, a lot of things moving and shaking around here. Is there an offensive lineman in free agency that you want to see the Jets bring in?
Listen, so as I was listening and stuff like that, I don't really know too much linemen that are available, but I do like the guy Tyrod Smith from the Cowboys, and I like Trent Brown from the Patriots. Yeah. I think those would be two good pieces that I would like to come over here as an offensive tackle. I feel like they would make instant impact. But we gotta make sure we are still a franchise for destinations. We a destinations for free agents to come. Because we was very high last year. This year is kind of questionable because now you got a coach that is on his 1-year deal, and then you got a GM that's on his 1-year deal, and you see that the people that are with Joe Douglas, they're going all over the place. They're all scattering, going to different franchises because this might be the end of their their time here, but hopefully that could turn around, and hopefully we get somebody that's in here that is gonna definitely make an impact right away.
Yeah, no, listen, you're talking those facts. Now my next and final question for you, Val, man, oh man, you look at the situation. We got a new report coming out from Tony Pauline talking about Joe Douglas basically being a guy that is too nice for his own good. Keith Carter is a very disliked coach within the franchise. Rex Hogan, parted ways with the Jets. They're saying that he was the guy that was the voice to bring in Zach Wilson, and that he allegedly, I'm saying allegedly, was the guy that was leaking stuff within the franchise during the season. What are your thoughts about this report, man? Do you believe any of it?
Oh, wow. Well, listen, there's a lot, like I said, there's a lot of situations, that a lot of leaks that have been coming out for this past month, and a couple of during, like, towards the end of the season and stuff like that. So there's been a lot of leaks going out, and it's just a franchise like that, like I said, that has been scrambling. And, you know, Joe Douglas, like I said, he hasn't really been, as much as praise as he's been getting. Listen, he did good in that 2022 draft. But I will say, like, he needs to, you know, get better and stuff like that, because a lot of stuff that he's, you know, been lacking has been very lackluster, especially when it comes to, like, being complacent. That's his huge problem right there, being way too complacent. I don't know if it's him.
Okay.
I don't know if it's Woody Johnson, the backup quarterback position and stuff like that. And I don't know if somebody said that he's a softie, whatever, but, you know, the whole – you know, HBO and, you know, Hard Knocks, he didn't want to be seen because he didn't want to make people, you know, make him look like the bad guy. He wanted to be nice, and, you know, stuff like that, you know. So I definitely feel like it's probably is true, and the whole Zach Wilson situation, it's just like, you know, I think they're going to part ways. They're going to move on from Zach Wilson. Obviously, I've been saying he wasn't the guy for the past 2 years. You know, I've been preaching that, but I hope now everybody's seeing the same thing I'm seeing. But not to be long-winded. Go ahead, Joe.
No, I mean, you're talking facts, man. You're talking facts. Now, before I let you go quickly, okay, because I got to get to these other callers real quick. Jamal Adams. A lot of Jets fans want him back. Y'all know how I feel. No, thank you. But give me your thoughts quickly, Jamal Adams. Do you want him back?
Oh, man, listen, after you hit him up with hit him up style, you know, in your video and stuff like that, going through all of your receipts, I don't know, man. Like, listen, I did like Jamal Adams as a player. I will say he's not a real safety. He's a box safety. You're completely right about that. But the little stuff that you said I didn't even know about, of, you know, him actually calling the Dallas players and stuff like that and telling them to let Jerry Jones. I didn't know that. That's crazy. So, you know, I will say no, because you already got Garrett Wilson that's actively talking out and that's saying, like, listen, we cannot have a season like that. If you have a Jamal Adams on there and he's echoing the same thing, he can influence the young core to go against the organization. Obviously, you've seen him do that with Marcus May. That's why Marcus May is not here, because, you know, he was agreeing with everything Jamal Adams was saying. So you don't want him to influence the young, you know, core like that. So I will say no, respectfully.
Yeah. Okay. Listen, Val, I got to slide off. Next time I have a show, I want to hear from you, all right?
Absolutely, Joe. Everybody hitting like, subscribe to Joe, man, and whatever he says at the end, of course, is always not true. It's fake. It's false affirmations.
Everything I say about Val is true. Don't listen to that, man. We're going to keep getting to these lines again, 515-602-9629. We'll get to everybody, but keep in mind we're running short on time, so we got to move through the call. Mike, we're coming to you, and then Justin, we're coming to you, Justin, so hold on. Mike from Toms River is the guy we're talking to. For those of you that do not know Mike, Savage. Mike, salutes. Again, we're short on time, but I want to get your thoughts on this topic really quickly. Bryce Huff, what are your thoughts, man? Should we re-sign him? How should we handle this situation with him?
I changed my mind. I didn't want him, but then now, like, thinking about it, I think I do want him. It depends. I hopefully get it for like $18 million a year, you know?
Okay. Yeah, that would be
qualify. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Sid. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I just think it would solidify a lot. I think Carolina, I forget his name. He was spitting fire. He was like dead on with everything he said. You know, I agree with 100% with him. I think Will McDonald's going to come back next year. He's going to do what Jermaine Johnson did, put on weight, and I think he's going to have a really good second year. Huff, you know, he was undrafted. You know, we got to reward our guys. You know, that's the way I.
Yeah. Listen, Mike, you're speaking absolute facts. Listen, I got to slide off because I got another caller. Next time I have a show, I want to hear from you. All right, Mike?
No problem.
All right, thank you for calling in. Again, we're short on time. I got to get to everybody. You know, Blog Talk be hating. Next, we're going to Justin. Justin, we're coming directly to you. For those of you that do not know Justin, he's a savage, man. We ain't heard from Justin in a minute. Salutes, Justin. Listen, we're short on time. Bryce Huff, what are you thinking? What should the New York Jets do with him? How would you handle the situation if you're the Jets general manager?
All right, I'll keep it short and sweet. Bryce Huff, I've been telling people for months, the dude's out of here. I've been intimate about it for months. The dude wanted to get his bag. He's going to get his bag, and the Jets can't afford it. I get it. There's people saying, oh, we can. No, we need offensive linemen. We drafted Will McDonald, and the writing was on the wall when it happened. I just don't get this talk about Bryce Huff coming back to the Jets. It's not happening. Let's get over it. Stop wasting time when we have all this other stuff to talk about. Bryce Huff is out of here. There's no point in talking about it. It's not happening. He's not coming back to the Jets. Good for him. And, it's a good story, but, we have a plethora of pass rushers. So, the writing was on the wall. So, for that, I don't think there's no reason to bring Bryce Huff back. I mean,
listen, Justin, I hear what you're saying, but at the end of the day, I wouldn't say we have a plethora of pass rushers. We really only have
what do you mean?
one.
We got Jermaine Johnson.
We don't,
Justin.
We do not have a plethora of pass rushers. Will McDonald is not proven. He's not proven at all. Jermaine Johnson only has 7.5 sacks this year. He only has 7.5 sacks.
Will McDonald will be just fine.
What you're telling me, here's what you're telling me, Justin. You think that Will McDonald in year 2 is going to get you. Hold on. You think Will McDonald in year number 2, after coming off of it, hold on. Will McDonald has deactivated this year, only had 3 sacks. You think he's going to get you over 10.5 sacks next season? That's guaranteed in a Super Bowl or bust year.
8 to 9 sacks
in a Super Bowl or bust year.
Book it. Second year, 8 to 9 sacks.
I don't know how you're looking.
In this Robert Saleh scheme, I know we don't trust Robert Saleh with anything on the offense, but on the defensive side of the ball, in this scheme, 8 to 9 sacks, book it. No one's going to lose sleep. No one's losing sleep over losing Bryce Huff. Good story, cool, whatever.
Okay.
We don't have the money for it. We don't have the money for him. Next topic.
Okay. Listen, next time I have a show, I want to hear from you, Justin. I got to slide off, all right? Look, man, I'm telling you, people feel different ways. I'm willing to listen, okay? But if you think you're going into Kansas City with 7.5 sacks and a guy that has big question marks trying to get into the next season, wait until you see what Patrick Mahomes does to you. Just wait until you see what he do to you. Wait until you see, okay? Ask the Bills. Wait, I'm telling you, wait and see. Listen, I've got to shut the show down because Blog Talk is going to start hating in a second, okay? Quickly, listen, I'm the man of the people. I'm here for the people. Let me shamelessly promote my Facebook page. Everyone go on Facebook, search The Long Beach Joe Show. Like that page. My content's up there as well. Go ahead and give it a listen. Message me. I'll message you right back. I love going back and forth with you folks about this football team. Also, leave me some feedback. I love hearing about what you folks got to do here on The Long Beach Joe Show, okay? Go on over to Twitter as well. I'm on Twitter. Go on over. It's at The Long Beach Joe Show, at The Long Beach Joe Show on Twitter. Go ahead and follow. I'll follow you right back. You're going to throw me no issues. I'm the troll that lives under the bridge, and I will have my Vera Tucker jersey on at all times. At all times, okay? Me and Vera Tucker under the bridge. We're going to troll everybody. I'm also on YouTube as well. Going over to YouTube, type in The Long Beach Joe Show, The Long Beach Joe Show on YouTube. You can also type in Long Beach Joe Jets, Long Beach Joe Jets on YouTube. Subscribe, hit that notification bell so when I post content, you folks will be able to know. Also give the videos and streams a thumbs up. Share them across your social media with your friends and your family. And there's always people, when I see you in person, because I will see you in person, it is arms out, chest open, free hugs for everyone. Free hugs for everyone that will cost you absolutely nothing. I want to thank you folks for listening, taking the time out of your days to come in and just, talk with your boy, sit down. Any way that you interact with the channel is greatly appreciated, okay? Without you people, I'm absolutely nothing. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to talk and come in with your boy. So until the next show, folks, you folks have a good one. Peace.